Okay, folks, welcome to another deep dive. And today we are going to dive deep, as the name suggests, into the latest in Canada's visa regulations.
Sounds good.
We've got some excerpts here from a few different articles talking about some recent shifts and the impacts.
Mm,
And I think we can help you understand whether you're a student or a worker, or maybe just interested in immigration patterns in Canada,
yeah,
how these new changes might affect you or somebody you know.
definitely.
So, big picture, Canada is moving towards stricter immigration controls,
Mm,
and especially they're targeting temporary residents.
hmm
So they're aiming to reduce the number of temporary residents to 5% of the population.
Right, and that's actually a pretty big change because back in April 2024, temporary residents made up 6.8% of the population.
Oh, wow.
So that's a significant reduction they're trying to get to.
Yeah, that's a big difference, yeah. So one of the areas that they are targeting with this is study permits. They're planning to shrink the number of study permits that they hand out from over 509,000 in 2023 all the way down to 437,000 by 2025.
Yeah.
That's a huge drop.
That is significant.
And so for folks who are not familiar with the intricacies of Canadian immigration, a lot of times students who come to Canada, they also bring their families.
Right.
And this has an effect on spouse work permits as well.
Yeah, definitely spouse work permits are being affected by this too. And those permits allow the spouses of students and workers to also live and work in Canada. But now the government's making it harder to qualify for them as part of this overall move to reduce the number of temporary residents.
And it's not just talking. We're seeing some real evidence of this stricter approach. In July of last year, over 5,800 foreign travelers were refused entry.
Wow.
That's like filling up a whole sports arena.
Right.
And that's the highest it's been since at least January 2019. And there's also been a 20% increase in border rejections in just the first 7 months of 2024
Mm.
compared to the year before.
Yeah, so the data is really pointing to a much stricter approach at the border now.
When I see numbers like that, it really makes me wonder, like, what's the driving force here? What's going on behind the scenes?
Well, a big part of it, like we were talking about earlier, is public concern over things like housing shortages and the cost of living. But it also goes a bit deeper than that. Canada relies on skilled workers, especially in certain sectors like tech and healthcare. And a lot of those workers come to Canada on temporary visas. So the government is trying to find this balance between, attracting the skilled workers that they need, but also dealing with the pressure on resources and housing affordability.
So it's this like tug of war between Canada's economic debt and the social impact
Exactly.
of a large influx of people.
That's a good way to put it. And, that's where this whole debate gets interesting because some critics are arguing that just cutting back on the number of visas isn't a real solution. They're saying it's more of a Band-Aid approach
Yeah.
and that the government should be focusing more on things like creating more affordable housing and providing clearer pathways to permanent residency for people who want to stay in Canada long term.
Sounds like a pretty complex issue
It is.
with no easy answers.
There's no easy solution here.
So for anyone listening right now who might be thinking about applying for a visa to Canada, what's the most important thing they should know?
I think the key takeaway here is to be prepared. Make sure your applications are really thorough and expect that it's going to take longer to get processed. Don't leave anything to chance.
Yeah, and there's tons of resources out there that can help people navigate this process. It can seem daunting,
Yeah,
but being informed is the first step.
absolutely. And don't get discouraged. These changes are just part of how immigration is always evolving. Understanding them is the key to making good decisions.
So to wrap up today, I want to leave you with a question. How do you think we can balance the need for skilled workers and economic growth with making sure everyone has a fair shot at a good life, no matter where they're from?
That's a good question.
It's a big one,
It is.
but I think it's one we all need to think about. Until next time.